Alright, good evening guys. I will be doing a brief explanation on ethnographical research and phenomenological research. This is for your review, okay, for exam tomorrow. So let's have the ethnographical research first. So I have this quote, a cliche that we usually hear: when you are in Rome, you do what the Romans do. So in my own understanding, this is actually a quote that explains everything about ethnographical research, because ethnographical research is a participant-centered type of research design, but the participation of the researcher is a must also. And there's a thing about ethnographical research on ethics that you have to do, or you have to comply if you are the ethnographer, or if you are the one doing the research. So later you will find out more on how this quotation applies in this type of research. So what is ethnographical research? So the first definition is that it seeks to understand the relationship between culture and behavior. By the way, you can refer on the material that I have sent you. So these are the content that I will be explaining. So ethnographical research understands the relationship between culture and behavior. But basically, if you're going to define ethnography based on the origin of the word, the ethno, from the word ethnic, and graphene, which means to write. But the ethnic term here is not limited to ethnic people. Okay, so ethnographical research can be something about anything, as long as you're studying a culture of a group of people. So it doesn't have to be always, ethnic people. All right. So later I will give you an example. Another definition is that ethnography is the in-depth study of natural occurring behavior within a culture or social group. So if you are doing an ethnography, the main focus of your study is studying everything about the culture and the behavior of your participants, included in the culture that you are studying. For example, you will be the beliefs, the values, and attitudes of the people in that particular place or in that particular context will be included as a subject in your research. So for a history review, ethnographical research was invented or introduced to us by Bronislaw Malinowski in 1915. So it started in nearly or mid 19th century. So ethnography was developed by Gerard Friedrich Müller. He's a professor of history and geography. So it was developed, or probably Müller was the one who popularized the ethnographical research in the field. So we call a person who spends time or some time living with or interviewing and observing a group of people as ethnographers. So if you're doing ethnographical research, you might be regarded as ethnographer. All right. So what is the main purpose of conducting ethnographical research? So there's only one main purpose. Okay. So the purpose is to obtain deep understanding of people and their culture, and to describe, analyze, and interpret the culture of this group of people. What is the goal? Of course, that is to understand, okay, their shared beliefs, their behaviors, even their language. Okay, the language is still part of culture. Now, what are the characteristics of ethnographical research? So these are the key characteristics. Okay, number one is contextual. It is contextual from the word context, which means the research is carried out in the actual scenario or in the actual setting. So that's why it is in context, which means the subject are normally in their most comfortable zone, meaning you uh, you will not be able to manipulate what's in their nature, because in the first place you are doing an ethnographical research. Okay, so another thing is unobtrusive. Okay, unobtrusive is one thing that we can describe um, the ethnographical research. So when we say unobtrusive, the research avoids manipulating the phenomena under investigation, meaning the process on how you gather the data in ethnographical research must be very natural. So that's why you're studying them in their natural habitat. Okay, so you will not allow them to change or to manipulate their nature. Okay, another is longitudinal. Now, ethnographic research is literally a longitudinal type of research in qualitative. Okay, it is relatively long. Okay, because the minimum time required in conducting an ethnography is 4 months. That is according to Cresswell 2013, that when you're doing an ethnographical research, 4 months is the minimum time required, okay, for you to actually gather the needed data. And when you say longitudinal, actually, if you're going to define it with short-term researches, commonly covers that's actually 6 months to 5 years, okay, or 5 years below. Now, when your research covers, let's say, beyond 5 years, that is now what we call long-term studies or long-term researches. Okay, another characteristic of ethnographical research is it is collaborative. It is collaborative in a way that, okay, the participants are not only the most important source of your information, but also the researchers themselves. So they are also important, especially of course in doing the ethnographical data gathering procedure, because you're the one who actually facilitates your data. You're the one doing the immersion to the culture that you are studying. So it is collaborative. Okay. Another is interpretative. So ethnographic research is interpretative in a way that the researcher carries out interpretive analysis of data. So this is on the part where we analyze the data or we do the coding of themes, wherein you give meaning to what you actually observe in the culture that you are studying about. Okay, so another is multi-methods. So ethnographical research is also multi-methods, meaning from the word multi meaning many. So in ethnographical research, interviews and observations are just part of the main method, which is what we call immersion, or in other term it's called field work, wherein you're going to live, okay, with the people that you are studying about, so that you will further or you fully understand their culture. As I said a while ago, you have to live with them or to immerse with them. The minimal time required is for 4 months. So if you want to be an ethnographer, that will be the required time. Now, the immersion or the field work is the main method that you can do in ethnographical research. So the interviews, the observations, and the documentations are just part of these immersion. Okay, so let's go now to the advantages and disadvantages. So, all right. So the first advantage of ethnographical research is that it is rich in perspective, in-depth understanding of the culture amongst the group of interest. So, of course, since you are studying culture, your data must be very rich and substantial in a way. So you will not be encountering zero data if you will be doing ethnographical research. That's the main advantage. Another thing is it gives importance to a specific group and provides understanding to outsiders. So this advantage could be primarily for the participants who are, for example, if your participants are ethnic people, so the people in um, yeah, ethnic people, for example, the Mangyan people. So if your subject or the Mangyan people, then you would be able to give them chance to be heard or to be noticed. So that's the advantage. Another thing is it has high validity among all of the qualitative designs because, as I said, connected to the first advantage is that your data is very rich, in this kind of research. Okay, all right, so let's go now to the disadvantages. Yon, the main disadvantage on this, it is time consuming since I mentioned a while ago that the minimum time required is 6 months and it's uh, literally a longitudinal study, so it could be time consuming and it can be expensive as well. So if you, for example, if you do an ethnographical research, imagine you will be living in a place where everything is unnatural to you. So you will be doing a lot of things. You will be doing traveling, if needed or if necessary. So those things. So that's why ethnographical research can be time consuming and expensive at the same time. Another disadvantage is that it is difficult to check the validity of the researcher's conclusion, meaning when we say difficult to check the validity class is that the reason for this is because you have a lot of methods and there are lots of sources of data. So when you do the immersion, you will have to do the interviews, you will have to do the observations, the documentations, the anecdotal records. So you have a lot of things to look at to understand your culture. So that's why it will be very hard for you to check the validity of your data. So the best thing to do to overcome this disadvantage is, I think, you really have to spend a lot of time in gathering your data so that you can consistently see their behavior, and you might be sure if you actually spend a lot of time in your data gathering. And the last one, the disadvantage is that it is dependent on researchers' observation and interpretation. So, as I said a while ago, I mentioned that ethnographical research is participant-centered. However, the data will not be collected or will not be transpired if the researcher did not do his or her part. So, you're like the key participant in this kind of research, because if you don't immerse, if you don't observe, there will be no data to be gathered. So that's why the researchers participation throughout the process is very important. So we have a problem. I have mentioned about the ethics. Okay, this is the common problem or the common challenge of most of the researchers in doing ethnographical research. So going back to the quotation I have mentioned a while ago, so when you are in Rome, you do what the Romans do. So what does it mean? Basically, it means when you are in a particular place where everything is new to you, or everything is unnatural to you, or everything is uncomfortable to you, you have to respect that. That's basically what it means. So you have to respect that. You have no right to complain. You have no right to ask question if you think it will be offensive for them. So if you see them, for example, if you see them eating in a, let's say, if you see them eating in a improper way, let's say, so you have no right to question them, or you just do what they are doing, since you are the one who's doing the research. So when they take a bath naked, for example, this is an example, if they take a bath naked in a river, so you would do the same thing, because you have no right to complain, you have no right to ask anything for your comfortability. So that is what ethnographical research mean. All right, so that will be the end of discussion, or brief discussion or explanation about ethnographical research. For your review, if you have a question, please send an audio clip, or you can send me a message. Okay.